a lot of my work is imagining pre-life or after death, or like the things outside of the parameters of like one life, and something about like imagining different species within their shared environments all having this like greater consciousness and knowledge as kind of one web that like one could access if they were able to kind of hop through it, is like I think something that a lot of my stories and drawings are like kind of touching a little bit. I mean, I remember like when I was like a kid and like a teenager, I mean, I always was like making art and feeling like the most freedom that I had felt was like when I was drawing. I like never like formally studied art, but I always drew a lot and read a lot of like experimental comics and was like very moved by the medium and wanted to make things like that. But I wasn't like making full-on comic. I tried to make one book, and then like at the beginning of the pandemic I was like, oh, I have some time to work on developing a story, and that's like when I started thinking about Fish Out of Water. This is like most of the originals from Fish Out of Water. Fish Out of Water is a book that I made that is also like about this like interspecies communication idea. It's about this character who's having recurring dreams that they like can't make sense of, and then they eat this fish that they catch in a polluted lake, and then they have like a transmission, like a waking dream of their recurring dream. The idea behind this book was like, what kind of knowledge does a fish have, or do other species have, that we could like find a way to access or like communicate with through some sort of like communion or openness or something, or just like randomness. Stuff like a lot of the stuff that I make is kind of like, yeah, grotesque in a kind of a sweet way. And I think like nature is also so that way, which is like something that I'm like responding to, I think, with how I'm drawing it. Like all the vines and brambles and thorns and goos and eggs and drips and muds and everything. And it was like a pretty loose, just like the lines of where the labyrinth would be. And then I was like building up this like dictionary of like little shapes that can be like spun and dangled and like trapped by the like line, the tube of the labyrinth. So then I had just drawn myself a little dictionary, and I was just like pulling from those shapes and adding them. We have pearls, we have star charms, there's like some chains. The pearls are like a big one, and they actually like go all the way through the fish, I think. A drawing like that is very tedious, like, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like I obviously really like drawing things that are tedious, but I feel like my little like joy in it comes from like choosing the next part that I'm gonna draw and not like making myself do it in like a linear way. And being like, oh, like that bone over there looks like fun to figure out. Like I'm gonna go over there now. I mean, Extinction is kind of like a sci-fi story in my mind. Like it's very softly sci-fi, but it does feel like a speculative, like environmental future where things are really sparse, and also just like feeling into like, yeah, what it would feel like to be the last creature in a species, which like some creatures experience that. That's so insane to imagine. It's so devastating. And then also like, how is that related to like all these other forms of grief that all creatures can relate to? I had this idea of making a few sculptures that are like things that formed on the bottom of the ocean, that are just formed out of like shells and dirt and sand and water and movement and like sea stuff, that wash up and just look like human objects. But then sometimes I find like a real shell in the world that is just so perfect and so much more what I'm trying to make than what I'm trying to make.